Hello everyone, welcome back to Ronin's Den. My name's Eric, and we are picking up our companion series for the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition campaign of The Night Below that we're running here on the channel. In this video, we're going to be looking at another one of the player character classes that are available in the 2nd Edition Player's Handbook. As always, we're not going to be discussing the lore of these classes. We're just going to be looking at the mechanics of them, what you need to qualify, what do you get for being a member of this class in the form of benefits and hindrances. So in this video, we're going to be looking at the Druid. When it comes to the Druid, it's an example of a priest of a specific mythos or a specialty priest. In order to qualify to be a Druid, you need to have a minimum of 12 wisdom and 15 charisma. Your prime requisites are going to be wisdom and charisma. Remember back from our previous video, what this means is so long as you have a 16 or higher in both of those statistics, you gain an additional 10% experience after it has been totaled up and divided out by the DM to the players. Add a 10% bonus to your share. Druids get the following proficiencies: 2 weapon and 4 non-weapon. They fall into the priest category for their proficiencies. When attacking with a weapon they're non-proficient with, they have a -3 penalty to do so. Keep in mind that this can be offset by high attributes and by magical bonuses. Now, when it comes to druids, they are more limited in their weapon selection and their armor selection than a traditional cleric. So when it comes to armor, druids will only ever use natural armors. So things like leather armor, hide armor, they can still use shields so long as they are wooden in material. You can make cases as a player for things like studded leather, but they really want to fit the druid into that natural world type of aesthetic. Weapons, they're more limited to as to which weapons they can take than the cleric, but they have a little more area that they can cover. So when it comes to weapons, they can select the club, the sickle, the dart, the spear, the dagger, the scimitar, the sling, and the staff. So they can do all types of weapon damage. They're not linked solely to bludgeoning damage. They can have a slashing weapon, they can have a piercing weapon, and they can have some ranged options for themselves as well. Druids don't get the same spell selection as a cleric or as other specialty priests either. So they have major access to all animal, elemental, healing, plant, and weather spheres. Keep in mind, this means that they can cast any spell of any level from those spheres of access, which are basically the schools of magic, but for clerics. They have minor access to the divination sphere, so they can only cast up to 3rd level spells from that sphere. They do not have access to spells of any other sphere of magic when it comes to clerics. This is something that does get homebrewed quite a bit throughout all the games I've ever been in, especially considering that additional schools of magic or spheres of influence were added over time through 2nd edition's run, where we saw adds like the sphere of war, the sphere of numbers and knowledge. So work with your DM about what spheres of access you have when you're making your character. But these are the baselines presented in the player's handbook. Druids get granted powers much like a cleric, but they don't get the same ones. For instance, druids are unable to turn undead. Remember back to our cleric video where the cleric is able to either make certain undead flee, destroy them outright, that kind of thing with a die roll. Druids cannot do that. However, in its place, the druid gets the following granted powers. They gain a +2 saving throw versus all fire and electrical attacks. All druids have an additional language that only they know. It is Druidic. This is going to be very similar to Thieves' Cant. So Thieves' Cant's that private language of the thieves and rogues. Druidic is the private language of druids. Upon reaching 3rd level, druids are able to identify plants, animals, and pure water with perfect accuracy. Also at 3rd level, druids can pass through overgrown areas without leaving a trail at their normal movement rate. So whereas standard fighter or a thief or a cleric going through underbrush and thorny vines might only be able to move at 1/3 of their movement rate, and they're definitely going to leave a trail because they're going to be tearing up all those vines and everything. The druid can just walk right through them, no problem. They have this supernatural ability to avoid any tangles, but also not to disturb them as they pass. Druids can learn the languages of woodland creatures as well. This includes centaurs, dryads, elves, fauns, gnomes, dragons, giants, lizardmen, manticores, nixies, pixies, sprites, and treants. The druid can add 1 language at 3rd level and 1 more every time they advance above 3rd level. So these don't cost language slots, and they don't cost extra proficiency slots. They're just bonus languages that the druid picks up through their training as woodsmen. Druids are also immune to the charm spells cast by woodland creatures like dryads, nixies, and etc. This happens once they reach 7th level. Druids gain the ability to shape change into reptiles, birds, or mammals up to 3 times per day after they reach 7th level. Each animal form, bird, reptile, or mammal, can be used only once per day. The size can vary from that of a bullfrog to a small bird or as large as a black bear. Upon assuming the new form, the druid heals 10 to 60% of all damage that they have suffered. Any fractions on that would be rounded down. The druid can only assume the form of normal or real-world woodland animals, and in normal proportions. So they could turn into a black bear, but they couldn't turn into an owl bear. They also couldn't turn into a giant black bear. Keep that in mind when choosing what animals you're going to shape change into. When in the new form, the druid takes on all of that creature's characteristics, their movement rate and abilities, its armor class, the number of attacks, and the damage per attack. So, what's nice about this is if the druid wanted to, they could turn into a black bear, gain those 3 attacks per round, the extra armor class. This can give them an edge in combat, but it can also give them an edge in escaping from certain areas as well. Let's say your druid is taken prisoner, they're unconscious, they regain consciousness, they can turn into a small bird, fly away, reassume normal form, or change into another animal form, fight off their captors, and get their gear back and save their companions as well. We already touched on the fact that druids have to be neutral in their alignment, at least in some way. Now, with the player's handbook version of the druid, they also say that mistletoe is their holy symbol, and that in order to use certain spells and abilities, they need to have mistletoe on them. They further go on to say that this mistletoe must be harvested using a golden or silver sickle underneath the full moon. If they do not have this on them when they cast their spells, the enemies get a bonus +2 to save against those spells. Now, druids also do not create strongholds or castles or anything of that nature. They do not attract followers in the traditional sense. Now, here's where the druid starts to get into the weeds, so to speak. Druids can only advance up to level 12 without an issue. So we all know that humans can advance an infinite number of levels. And the top baseline for the standard version of 2nd edition is level 20. However, Druids have a special organization within their priesthood according to the 2nd edition player's handbook. And that means at level 12, Druids stop leveling. Anybody from level 1 to 11 is considered an initiate. Once they reach level 12, they acquire the official title of Druid. At this point, there can only be 9 12th level Druids in any geographic location. Now, this could be based on whatever the DM determines is a geographic location, to be completely honest with you. It could be as small as a mountain range or a specific forest. It could be as big as a continent. The rule of thumb they give in the player's handbook is a continent should have around 3 or 4 regions. So around 27 12th level Druids possible on a continent. Doesn't mean that there's going to be 27, but that seems to be about the upper limit that the player's handbook it's kind of driving for. And when you consider how slow you would level typically in a 2nd edition campaign with the experience points compared to the really fast milestone leveling that a lot of the kids like in 5th edition, you can see how this could be a thing. So, once reaching 12th level, they gain the title as of Druid. If there is no open position for them to reach 12th level and take the title of Druid, they are stuck at 11th level until they are able to go out and challenge one of the current Druids for their position. This is typically done through some kind of magical test or hand-to-hand combat. The conditions for this trial are left up to the DM, but combat is the one that seems to be the most common. When the character becomes 12th level, they automatically gain 3 underlings or followers. The level of these followers or underlings depends upon the position of that Druid within the 9 12th level Druids that are in that area. So the one that has the highest position is going to have the highest level of initiates. These are going to be 9th level followers, and it goes all the way down until the person who is the least power within those 9 has 3 1st level initiates. Now, there can only be 3 archdruids. This is when the druid reaches 13th level. So you are stuck at 12th level until you are able to find an archdruid and challenge them for their position, or if there is an open position for them. These archdruids, they cover the same kind of area. They are 1 per geographic. It's 3 per geographic area, and that geographic area again can be as small as a forest or a specific mountain range, or as or larger than that. But there's only 3 of them per region. Each of these 3 archdruids has 3 initiates or followers. These are 10th level. It's among the archdruids of the entire world. 3 are chosen to serve as the Grand Druid. Grand Druids and Hierophants and Great Druids are going to be something we're going to talk about here in a quick minute. But these 3 retain their attendees, so they're followers, but they themselves are servants to the Grand Druid. So they become... It's an organization that keeps stepping up each level you get to. The Great Druid is level 14. This is a unique druid within the region. There is only one of them. The Great Druid is served by 3 followers, each of which are 11th level. The ascendance of a new Great Druid normally sets off shockwaves of turmoil and chaos throughout the Druidic hierarchy. And the advancement of an Archdruid creates an opening that is fiercely contested by Druids, and the advancement of the Druid creates opening in their rank. So every time a Druid goes up a rank, there is this kind of rush amongst all the lower level Druids who are ready to assume that position to try and get that open area and move themselves up. And once they get to that point of Great Druid, they're in a really good position, because the next two versions or rankings of Druid is the highest ranking Druid in all of the world. And there is only one person in the entire world that can hold the title of Grand Druid. So this happens when your Druid reaches 15th level. And remember, this position has to be opened. It's not that you advance to 15th level and, oh, yes, you can automatically go to 15. No, you are stuck at each of these positions until the opening occurs, or you're able to challenge the person ahead of you to take their position. Now, the Grand Druid stops following traditional Druid spell progression. So if we look on the experience chart, Druids have their own experience chart that they follow the level up. They gain the hit dice just like clerics do, so a D8. They follow the same rules as clerics, so they can only get a maximum of +2 adjustment for hit points. At 9th level, they stop gaining hit dice, and they just add +2 every level after that to their hit points. And they follow the same priest spell progression that you can see there as well. However, at 15th level, that stops. The Grand Druid knows 6 spells of every level instead of that normal spell progression. So let's assume that we're at 15th level and they have a 18 in wisdom. They would know 6 first, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, all the way up to 7th level spells. They can cast more spells than any cleric of similar or even higher level, at least of the highest level of spells. You can see that there is a trade-off for the lower level spells starting around 5th and below. So when it comes to 6th and 7th level, the Grand Druid is the pinnacle of priestly spell casting. The Grand Druid has 9 other Druids who are their followers. So they are subject only to the Grand Druid. They don't listen to anybody else inside the hierarchy. And remember, the pecking order of Druids is pretty exacting. Now, the Grand Druid can call any Druid character of any level to become a servant or follower for him. But also any Druid can seek out the Grand Druid and attempt to become a follower for the Grand Druid. At least 3 of these 9 are going to be Archdruids who are going to roam the world, and they're going to act as personal messengers and agents. Each of them receives 4 additional spells. So each of their Archdruid followers receives 4 additional spells. The remainder of the Druids are normally between 7th and 11th level, although the Grand Druid can request a Druid of any level to serve as a follower. The position of Grand Druid is not won through combat. Instead, the Grand Druid selects their successor from the acting Great Druids. So you can go through combat all the way up to the position of Great Druid, but you cannot become the Grand Druid through combat. That position has to be freely given. The position is also largely administrative, very political, not something that is really conducive to adventuring. But after you reach 16th level as the Grand Druid, you are able to step down from this position at any point in time that you want to, so long as you can find a suitable successor. So that means another Great Druid of at least 15th level can replace you, You put him in that position. You step down, and now you take on the new title of Hierophant Druid. So when this happens, you lose your 6 bonus spells. You lose the bonus spells that you get. You follow the normal pre-spell progression table, and then you can get as high as 20th level as a Hierophant Druid. You don't gain any additional spells, so you stop at 15th level on the progression chart. Okay, I probably just misspoke there. And instead, you get special spell-like powers, additional granted powers. At 16th level, the Hierophant Druid gains 4 powers. Immunity to all natural poisons. Natural poisons are ingested or insinuated by animal or vegetable poisons, including monster poisons, but not mineral or poison gas. So snake venom, manticore venom, wyvern venom, sure. Chlorine gas, no. The druid no longer suffers any ability score degradation for aging. So we haven't really talked on that because it hasn't popped up yet. However, in 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, the older you get, your physical statistics go down, but your mental statistics go up. So you might lose a little bit of strength, dexterity, and constitution, but you'll have gains in intelligence and in wisdom to make up for that. You also gain the ability to alter your appearance at will. Alteration is accomplished within 1 round. A height and weight increase of up to 50% or decrease is possible, and the apparent age from childhood to extreme old age. Body and facial features can resemble any human or humanoid creature. This alteration is not magical, so it cannot be detected by any means short of true seeing. So this 16th level Hierophant Druid would be able to say, hey, I know I'm normally a 50-year-old guy, but I want to appear as a 5-year-old child in order to deliver this message. Or, I need to look just a little bit younger to slip in amongst this camp of bandits and walk around unnoticed. I'm going to drop my age from 60 to 25. Or, hey, these bandits, they're not human. They're orcs. I'm going to make myself an orc. And they can change their appearance. This doesn't give them any special abilities or anything like that. And just normal detect magic won't pick it up. You need the powerful true seeing spell. At 17th level, the character gains the biological ability to hibernate. The body functions slow down to the point where a character may appear dead to the casual observer. Aging ceases. The character is completely unconscious during hibernation and awakens either at a preordained time, saying that they'll hibernate for, say, 20 days, 2 months, or even longer, or when there's a significant change in the environment. So Druid's like, hey, it's winter time. I don't feel like dealing with the cold. I'm going to do what the bears do, and I'm going to hibernate during the winter. When it warms up, I'll wake up again. Or if somebody kind of jostles the body, like they're like, oh, there's a dead guy here, and they poke him with a stick, that'll wake the druid up as well. The Hierophant Druid also gains the ability to enter the elemental plane of Earth at will. The transference takes 1 round to complete. The ability also provides a means to survive on that plane, move around, and return to the prime material plane at will. It does not confer similar abilities or immunities on the prime material plane. So this is when the druid starts getting the ability to enter the elemental inner planes. The plane of Earth, if you want to think about it, and I'll do a whole video on the different planes because I'm a planescape junkie, but think of the plane of Earth as a solid bit of dirt. It is a plane. It is the entire. It'd be like if we lived inside of an ant farm, but there was no top. It's just tunnels and solid dirt and stone and mineral veins and big air pockets where there's cities that are built by the people and the creatures that live on the elemental plane of Earth. It's not someplace that's hospitable to life. You could end up in a literal just in quicksand, or what would be the equivalent of it, and you'd have to swim through this in order to find like an air pocket or a tunnel. Creatures native to the plane of Earth, that's no big deal. They just stonewalk and tunnel and burrow and phase through this stuff like it's nothing. A normal human character or an elf or any of your player characters, for that matter, to get transported to the plane of Earth, unless they have the ability to create air pockets and move the Earth themselves, they don't have a lot of time to live. So this ability allows them to move into the plane of Earth and survive there. At 18th level, the Hierophant Druid gains the ability to enter and survive the plane of fire. At 19th level, the character can enter and survive the elemental plane of water. And at 20th level, the character gains the ability to enter and survive the elemental plane of air. And that, all of that, is our look at the Player's Handbook version of the Druid. It's a lot, I know. And I'll admit that this is probably one of the most homebrewed classes out of the Player's Handbook because of some of the requirements when it comes to leveling. A lot of the DMs that I know didn't want to brick wall their players for those campaigns that did get into the high levels. So there were concessions that were always made so the druidic character could continue advancing. But in my opinion, it's a really interesting class. I think it's very well done as an example of a priest of a specific mythos. These aren't priests of specific deities, although they could be. In the Forgotten Realms, Faiths and Avatars books, some deities, specialty priests are druids. But anyway, let me know what you think about this class in the comment section. If you've played one before, how you think it compares to the 5th edition base druid or the subclasses that you've played for that. And if you could, please give us a like and subscribe. It really helps get these videos out in front of more people who are looking for this retro Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition content. Keep tuned for our campaign of Night Below, which releases every other Monday. We're also continuing our Capiterra campaign every other Saturday. And we started a brand new series where we are deep diving into the legends of Kralis with that system's creator and author, Levi Davis, or Telarius Game Master. Anyway, thank you so much for dropping by, and I look forward to catching you in the next video where we look at the player character class that is the Thief.